battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Why'd the chicken walk across the road? Because his car died after making a funny noise, like these. Click. Tapping, like a ballpoint pen. Clunk. Heavy metal-to-metal sound, like hammers on steel. Grind. Abrasive noise, like sandpaper. Groan. Low-pitched hum, like when you see your credit card bill. And growl. Guttural sound, like an angry dog. If you hear these noises, don't laugh them off. Tell them to your technician, or the joke may be on you. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. The phrase, strong but sensitive, has described everything from Russell Crowe to antiperspirant. But don't retire it until you hear the newest automotive application. When I come back, I'll tell you.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You typically think of tires as hardworking and tough, but a new generation will have a sensitive side too. Make that sensors on the side. Yes, Continental Tevis has introduced Smart Tire that will have 2 tiny sensors built into its sidewall. These mini computers measure how a car is affected by motions such as braking and cornering, and then relays this info back to the ABS and onboard computer. Result? Improved safety and performance. Wow! Strong, sensitive, and smart. Sign me up. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning. Welcome to this edition and today's broadcast of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. You can go to carclinicnetwork.com and check out our site and also the studio. It's really kind of neat to sit inside. The floor weighs about 10,000 pounds and overall about 29 feet long, 9-foot ceilings, and it's just a really great place to be. It's a great place to be in Pensacola, Florida, and that's where we live. That's where we call the center of the automotive universe is, right here. From the interior of a 15,000 square foot automotive service center, 47 years celebrated. The March the 11th for the automotive service, and 27 years for yours truly, Bobby Likis Car Clinic broadcast. So we're still going strong, and we invite your participation at 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part this morning by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Folks, when it comes to safety, there's nothing more important than your vehicle's brakes, and you can trust the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to help you choose the brakes that are an exact fit for your vehicle. Brands you trust like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermal Quiet. O'Reilly Auto Parts has the brake parts and accessories you need at guaranteed low prices. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. When I come back, this car repair spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. We recently had a 97 SL Mercedes in our car clinic service shop with an erratic AC problem that made the car undrivable. Start the engine, AC worked perfectly. Cold air blowing out the center vents. But drive it 2 blocks and the AC shifted to heat, with all air blowing out the top. From experience, we believe the issue was a vacuum leak. After hours of testing and reading vacuum diagrams, we called our local O'Reilly Auto Parts counterman, asked him to help us search for Mercedes AC parts known to fail. Wouldn't you know, he came up with 2 specific parts, and we ordered both, installed them, and the system worked as new. It's terrific to have parts professionals on your side, not only for routine parts like brake pads, but when you really need help. Our customer got his car fixed, and we were able to close out another successful repair. That's why our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. This car repair spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Today's question, what role does the radiator pressure cap play? The pressure cap regulates internal pressure in the system using 2 valves, a presser and a depressor. The pressure cap controls the release of hot coolant into the recovery tank as the coolant expands from the heat, all the while maintaining pressure that is critical to preventing overheating. Turn the engine off, the antifreeze cools down, causing a vacuum in the system as the internal pressure decreases. This decrease in pressure could cause hoses to collapse and coolant levels to be incorrect. This expansion and contraction of coolant in and out of the recovery tank helps to maintain proper coolant levels. This is why it's critical to regularly inspect and replace when necessary your radiator pressure cap. Motorrad offers the best coverage of thermostats and pressure caps in the world for virtually any vehicle and engine on or off the road. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. For more, go to motorradusa.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's show. I'm glad that you tuned in, and just remind yourself, and there on your handy-dandy, in the back of your mind, be all right, 10 till noon Eastern Time every Saturday. I'm here, and we also are available at our Watch Bobby Live. That's watchbobbylive.com, which is an HD video, and the camera is right here in-house. And from time to time, I share some neat little things that I find in the shop during the week. Not as often as I'd like with regard to show and tell, because that would be a whole different kind of a broadcast. But we may do that one day, where we actually take you out into the shop, and we'd have to shoot that, Fabio, and video maybe a certain repair. It's just, here's the challenge, and here's the challenge with like going online. A lot of folks say, well, I went online. In fact, everybody does that, and yours truly as well, to see if you can find some similar experience that someone else has had with their car to make it easier to fix an automobile. Now, for us, we have professional sites that we go to that we pay for, like All Data, for information, TSBs, recalls, service bulletins, wiring diagrams. I mean, if you're going to go somewhere, you have to have a map. Well, that's what a wiring diagram is for an automobile, and you must have one to trace any electrical circuits and other professional. But the bottom line is, in order for you to really fix a specific part on an automobile, you're not going to find you're not going to find the specific fix online. There's always a caveat. There's always some little something that, well, it worked on one car, but it was built 2 months earlier than yours, or it had a different wire than yours, or it had a different transmission or different gear ratio. So you can learn a little bit, but don't take it for gospel. Okay, let's go to New York and take David's call. Then I see Anita is calling with a Mustang, and David's calling with an 08 Mercury, a follow-up call from a recent call-in. David, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm terrific. Yourself?
Well, the car's fixed.
Okay, let's pick up where we left off. Fill me in. Where do we leave off?
All right, we had the 08 Sable that was skipping, and it wasn't really setting any codes.
Right.
We talked about pending codes and
okay,
and 5 to 10,000 occurrences before it actually throws a code.
Right.
And that's the way it worked with this one. Well, I took it out for drives. I took it out about 5 30-minute drives. Dry weather, wet weather. It's real easy to get it in wet weather up here this year, by the way.
Yeah, okay.
And, oh, boy, does it rain here.
Oh.
And
hey, I'm in Florida. You talk about rain, David. You're in New York. But let me tell you, if it's not raining in Florida, just wait 20 minutes because of the weather. And the humidity,
right.
I don't know how the humidity is in New York, but the humidity in Florida, you would beg for rain sometimes, because to be mugged with that humidity and 85 to 90 or 100 degree temperatures. But anyway, back to your story. I didn't mean to interrupt there.
Yeah, well, we run about 80% humidity here. But anyway, so I took the thing out for a drive. I tried it with the air, with the cruise, without the air, with the cruise, all the combos with the air and the cruise. Didn't seem to make any difference.
Right.
Because sometimes those things can get into that. And it got progressively worse. I mean, when this started out, it was skipping maybe once, maybe twice in a mile.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time it went back to the dealers, it was skipping all the way down.
Wow.
Now, it still hadn't thrown a code, but I think it had pending codes. The guy wouldn't talk to me about it. It's like, I don't know. It was like a secret, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, it turned out to be 2 coil packs.
Mm-hmm.
How 2 coil packs could both go at the same time, I don't know. But they changed the packs, the plugs, and a gasket and all the boots, which may or may not have been needed. And runs good. Gained about a mile and a half in the gas mileage.
Well,
I'll let you take it.
Yeah, let me say this, because we talked a little bit about coils and Ford products, and of course, when I think of a coil and I think of Ford, I think of the F-150 trucks, hundreds of thousands of F-150 trucks, especially the 3-valve heads where the spark plug will break off when you try to extract it from or just unscrew it. Oh yeah, that's a bummer. But your engine is not one of those, so you don't have to worry about that. But with regard to coils, and I mentioned this before, it is our policy, and again, our policy is one thing, but to try to convey why we make those decisions to the owner of a car is another thing. And let me give you an example. Let's say on your Mercury that you had number 2 cylinder misfire. Even if it didn't throw a code, we could see that there was storage in there that number 2 had misfired, 8,000 times or 7,000 times, and then we could watch it real time. In fact, Johnny Bars, our master, he's a shop foreman and master ASC technician, and I looked at a car recently that had some misfires to try to pinpoint why and what Anyway, so the bottom line, what we have found is that it is always best, considering the age of a vehicle and the mileage, to replace the plugs, the boots, and the coils in a pack. So much so that we have gotten, and here's how we do this. At one time, those coils were $100 and something a piece, and I mean it made a huge repair. When actually you could put 1 or 2 coils and stop the problem. But then again, next week another coil would go bad. Then next month another one, and then finally you've got the same customer coming back, the same car owner saying, "Hey, Bobby, what is this? I've been here. I have the same problem." Well, it's not the same problem, same complaint, and my car's misfiring, and I've already paid A, B, and C. Now you want me to pay again? So we learned the hard way, and by going through, and we're transparent. It's a prerequisite, and we've been in business 47 years, and not only have we won Best of the Bay, but I'm proud to say, in fact, it was just in yesterday, we won Best of the Coast, which is an independent in-weekly news here in Pensacola and along the Gulf Coast, and we won through our popular vote from our customers Best of the Coast in oil change and in auto repair, and that's a big deal. We won this in 14, 15, 16, 17, and 2018, and so I want to take this opportunity to thank my crew because that's a big deal. Now, so let's go back to the root of our conversation here. We actually, and I have suggested to some of our F-150 customers, I said, up the street is O'Reilly Auto Parts. And this is a fact. If I could throw a football that far, it's just a feel. I'm sure that Brady could, or Drew Brees, or maybe Tua with Alabama, he could do it. We could throw a football from here to O'Reilly Auto Parts. I suggested to a customer, not only recently, but over the last couple of years, you go up to O'Reilly Auto Parts and you buy an Excel coil kit that comes in a box for your car, for your truck, all eight. And that way you get the resistance of the coils, you get the quality of the coils, and you get all of them fixed at one time. And you say, well, normally you don't take your parts to a shop. That's correct. But in the case of the coil debacle of Fords, which that's what I call it, it's just age and wear, but those coils fire a lot. The bottom line is we replace all of them, but where possible, we send them up to O'Reilly Auto Parts and let them buy their coils from O'Reilly Auto Parts. And you know what that does for us, David? It takes away that part of the repair that doesn't make it so big, because if you're buying something, it's not the same as you coming here and paying me to go buy it and then resell it to you. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
That's a very unusual statement and modus operandi for a service shop to do. But after 47 years, I always and love to and still do put myself in my customer's shoes. And besides, in the long run, I've made a customer because I saved him or her money, and in the long run, I don't get a car that comes back for the same complaint, not the same reason, but the same complaint. So I really appreciate you calling me back, and it's ironic because we did talk about, folks, the fact that with Ford products, the misfire that the onboard computer sees has to reach a certain count before they'll throw a code or throw a light, throws a code. The only thing I can say, and I got a hard break, David, coming up, was I'm a little disappointed that the technician wouldn't talk to you or didn't want to share information with you, because in our industry, that's the only way you can, like a doctor, it's the only way you can do properly and make a good communication. Anyway, got to go. Got a hard break. Coming back to Anita and another David from South Carolina. Folks, don't touch that dial. Entertainment, GPS, heated seats, backup cameras, and start-stop technology. Just a few of the electrical demands we put on today's vehicles. AGM or absorbent glass mat batteries are up to the challenge. They're precision engineered to offer the ultimate combination of power, durability, and reliability. AGM Battery Advantage is robust design. With high compression cell design and glass mat separators, AGM batteries are built to excel in the most demanding conditions. AGM, the better battery for today's vehicles. Learn more about AGM advantages at autobatteries.com. October is Fall Car Care Month. The Car Care Council reminds you there's no better time to perform a thorough check of maintenance items: brakes, batteries, tires, cooling systems, filters, headlights. These are just a few things to consider before harsh weather hits. Visit carcare.org to find out how you can best keep your vehicle safe, dependable, and on the road longer. You can even develop your own custom service schedule. It's Fall Car Care Month. Are you Car Care aware? Learn more at carcare.org. A 2000 Chrysler Concorde with a 2.7 V6 recently came into the shop. The owner was having issues with low oil pressure and a warning light. After testing and inspection, we found sludge in the engine. The owner was partly to blame, as he had not changed the oil off it enough. But sludge buildup is a common problem in this engine. Do you overhaul this old engine in this old car? Well, maybe, but Berryman Engine Oil Flush may help. Berryman Engine Oil Flush quickly and safely removes harmful sludge and other deposits in the crankcase of all gasoline and diesel engines without using aggressive solvents. Berryman frees sticky valves and lifters for quieter operation, opens restricted oil passages that improve overall oil circulation. Berryman Engine Oil Flush is compatible with all single-grade and multi-grade conventional and synthetic gasoline and diesel engine oils. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information and to check out Berryman Engine Oil Flush. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
Higher, 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Let's take a call from Anita with a 2016 Mustang convertible. Passenger door issues, according to Hannah's notes on my screen here. Anita, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Good morning.
Good morning. What can I do for you?
I have a 2016 Ford Mustang convertible.
Okay.
It was bought used in April, and when you go down the road all on its own, the passenger door becomes unlocked and actually goes ajar. I took it back to the dealer. They couldn't recreate it, so therefore they said they couldn't help me. I took it to Ford. Ford said that they have no idea. They checked the Carfax to see if there was any previous accidents, and the Carfax is clear. And they said the only thing they could possibly think would be an actuator, but they didn't want to put one in because they weren't sure.
Well, let's first clear the air. An actuator unlocks and locks the door. It does not have anything to do with the opening or closing of the door. Okay? Mm-hmm. In other words, when you hit the key fob and it locks all the doors, and the same key fob opens the trunk on cars, and all the normal things that we use key fobs for, that does not open a door. So there's a miscommunication there. Someone, when they mention actuator, you can lock the door. If you go down the highway pushing your key fob, lock, unlock, and the door would never become ajar. Now, it would never crack open that first notch. So that's for you to know. So somebody's giving you the wrong information there if you understood them for what you're telling me. Okay, so you're clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's just like a window in your house. You close it and you latch or unlatch. But you can latch and unlatch all day long, but that window's not going to raise, by itself. You have to open the door, open the window, just like the same door. Now, here's what I want you to try. If I were to say hair trigger and think of a firearm, would you understand what I'm speaking of?
Yes, I would.
You would? Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to get in that Mustang, and I want you to close the door, and don't turn it on. You don't need the key on. This is a mechanical test, and I want you to kind of put your shoulder against the door and lean on it. Not to push really hard, but to lean on it so that with any push and any opening of the door, it'll pop. It'll move just that little bit. Okay, so here's what I want you to do when you're leaning on it. I want you to take your hand and ease the remote control door open. And the door is just the door handle on the inside. You with me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Now, you should be able to move that door handle maybe a half inch or so, but certainly some distance before the door opens, because there has to be some differential or else you'd have a hair trigger. And a hair trigger would mean that you just reach and barely move the door handle and boop, it pops open. You see where I'm going here?
I do.
Because and it's called a remote door handle, but really a remote to me, things like television remote, it's not a remote like that. It's a door handle that is placed in a convenient position on the door panel, so you can reach with your left hand if you're driving the door and pop the door open. But that is not where the door latch is. The door latch is at the door jamb, which is on the B pillar, which is that post where your VIN decal it lives. You know what a B pillar. Okay, so if you're going to unlatch something on a B pillar and you're reaching toward the front of the car, the only way that can work is to put a lever there with a cable or a rod that runs back to the latch. Well, there's an adjustment on that rod. So I want you to determine if you have to move the door handle an eighth of an inch, which is, just the half the thickness of a pencil, okay? Or if you just move it a number 2 lead pencil, if you moved it a number 2 lead pencil, it's maybe 30 thousandths or just barely hair trigger, then it tells me that when you're going down the road and the body flexes, that cable or that rod, whether it's a cable or a rod, is adjusted so tightly that any movement, pop, it pops the door open. That's
that's exactly what happens. I go over a bump down the highway, and whether someone's there or not, the door opens and goes ajar.
Exactly, and it opens to the first position, which is the jar. So that's the first thing. Now, you could have a bad latch. If I were, because it's a 16 Mustang, the first thing I would do is I would just disconnect the handle and drive the car. And if the handle's disconnected, if the rod's disconnected, well, you can't get out of the car unless you put the window down and open it from the outside. But if you disconnected that cable and you still had the problem, you would know that it wasn't that handle. You see how simple that? You've got a mechanical problem. This is easy, Anita, as compared to the problems that we get. This is a no-brainer. So
the
I mean,
dealer and
I don't understand
dealer
this.
didn't know how to do it, and neither did Ford.
Well, I just don't think that they're. I don't think maybe we haven't conveyed to them what we're doing here. So I want you to check the hair trigger of your vehicle, and you could go out, and call me back in 30 minutes. I want you to check that in your driveway, because you do not have to start the car. You don't have to run the car. All you got to do is get in it, close the door, and then ease. And the reason you want to lean on the door is because you want to find out immediately how much you have to move the handle for the door to pop, the first pop. You got it?
Correct.
Okay. Well,
I understand.
Good.
Wow.
Go try that. And if we've got if you got a hair trigger, then all that needs to be done is for more slack to be put in there. And you say, well, wait a minute. If you put too much slack, well, yeah, you put too much slack, you'd have to move the door handle 1.5 inches before it would ever open the door. Well, somewhere between 1.5 inches of movement and no movement is where it's a proper adjustment, and there's specs for that, but it's not rocket science, and it should never take. It should not be one of those. Well, we have to check the ohms resistance of the widget relay going into the yada yada yada. Anyway, thanks for your call. You really that was really easy, and we'll take a next step if that doesn't correct your problem. But the bottom line is, if that rod is disconnected and that door pops open, then the latch is a problem.
Great. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye. Interesting. 888-227-2546. Let's go to David in South Carolina. David, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for holding.
Hey, Bobby. I've got a 99 Mercedes E320. We bought it for a teenager. And when I bought the car, everything was fine on it. But she drove it for about 4 or 5 hours one day, and transmission started slipping out of gear.
Wow.
We grabbed the car, brought it back here, replaced the conductor plate in it, and, put it back in, and now the car's stuck in limp mode. So we took the restrictor plate down again last night because we're getting a input error on the turbine speed sensor.
Right.
And made sure that speed sensor, when I took it down, the speed sensor wasn't sitting exactly right. So we reset that, put new fluid back in the car, cranked it back up, and the problem is still persisting with the new conductor plate.
Well,
and that sensor is a part of that conductor plate.
Well, David, let me ask you a question. Explain to me how that sensor could not be sitting just right. I mean, that's an indication there that did you do this? You're doing this yourself, right?
Yeah, I did this myself.
Well, why? How was it off? How was it not sitting right? Because doesn't it just doesn't it pop in with a screw that holds it in position?
No, it's actually the conductor plate is one large piece of plastic, and it's got metal. It's got copper prongs that go over to this
connector,
to this turbine sensor, and it doesn't really connect. It's one piece, but when we put it on there, I guess it somehow tilted up at just a very small angle.
Right.
So I took the conductor plate off last night and pushed it back down, and the plastic, clipped back in its right place, and then it sat level correctly. So it just wasn't sitting level when we first put it in. That made it throw the code, and now that we've put it right, and we know it's right, and everything looked good, everything was clean. We had some shavings in there, but according to Mercedes, that's kind of normal on that car, as long as they're not the brass-colored shavings, as long as they're just black shavings.
Well, yeah, some transmissions have wear and clutch particles, and I mean, the first time you pull a virgin pan off, you're going to see a lot of things in there that you say, well, gosh, what is this? Well, the oil was never changed in it, and even if it had been changed, you'd still have those pieces. So I agree that the little debris is nothing to really worry about. What about a scan tool, a professional scan tool, so that you can get into the architecture of the transmission control module? Do you have such an animal?
Yeah, I think that's our next step.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's what I have to do. I'm assuming that I have to reset that.
Yes. Yeah.
On one of those tools, because of disconnecting the battery and grounding out the computer really doesn't get rid of it.
No, it does not, and it's a 96 and up, so you have to. But David, here's what I would do if you feel if it's in the limp home mode. The first thing that you have to do is have a laptop, and quite candidly, they call it the Star, which is what Mercedes had. Their software is specific to their cars. Well, I mean, you could say the same thing for GM and Ford and Chrysler, but the bottom line, I think you might want to buy at a local dealer, a Mercedes dealer, or a certified shop there in South Carolina that has the tools, and ask them to read the codes and go into the architecture and see if there are any update programs, because the fact that it's in limp home mode tells me that the vehicle sees an issue and says, oops, let's shut down and let's get this driver home, but this car's not healthy. So that's what a limp home mode is. It is exactly what its name implies. It means the car doesn't work as advertised, but at least it runs and it drives and it moves from point A to point B, albeit not at a very good speed. That's a hard break. You think about what I said. I'm going to keep you through the break, and then when I come back, I'll take your question. Then we'll go to Erica's call, and folks will take your call at 888 Car Clinic. I'll be back. We recently sat down with Kate Searlick, Global Product Management Lead with Johnson Controls. Kate talked about the advantages of AGM batteries, noting they outperform traditional flooded batteries when partially charged, a key benefit if your normal driving consists of shorter trips. Let's hear from Kate.
Today's charging systems are not negatively affected by installing an AGM battery, and no modifications are needed for the alternator or the charging system. In fact, an AGM battery actually performs better when partially charged than a standard flooded battery. This means if you're not driving long enough distances to fully charge the battery, an AGM battery more efficiently performs and not consume additional power from the alternator. We were able to validate this in fleet testing we conducted in Las Vegas, where we witnessed AGM batteries providing up to twice the service life of a standard flooded battery.
AGM batteries help meet the electrical demands put on today's vehicles, and Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries. Learn more at autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking with David in South Carolina with a '99 Mercedes transmission. So David, what I recommend is that you limp this car, no pun intended, to the local Mercedes dealer, and have them to not only you're not reading codes here. I mean, you are. But that's an exterior. Let me put it real simple. If you and I are sitting at a restaurant, look across the street, and there's a house on fire, we know there's a house on fire, and we see smoke. But only when we go into the house can we determine where the fire is coming from and where it originated and how to properly put it out if we are so lucky to be there early enough before it spreads. Well, when you go to like some parts companies will read your codes for free, but they only have readers, which is like anybody can buy a reader for $35, $50. The professional tools that we use not only read the code, which is the no-brainer, but our equipment goes into the architecture of the electronics of the vehicle. We can literally take, for instance, and you've seen cars that have electronic controls on suspension, we can take a laptop and walk 20 feet away from a Mercedes and make the Mercedes do a dance like a lowrider, right fender up, left fender down, just from our laptop. You can't do that with a reader. You can only do that with a professional scan tool that has a software that's compatible and will allow the technician to enter that realm of ones and O's. And I say that because that's the way it really is. So I would recommend that you pay a dealer, a nominal amount, and they'll tell you what they'll charge to do the not repair it, but to read it and see what they can get and glean from going into the house, if you so to speak. So that's what I would recommend, because if you've got an error and you've replaced the part for that error, maybe all you need now is to reprogram. And here's an important thing for you to know, David. Whether it's a Mercedes or a Lexus, or we put a door actuator, the lady called earlier, we put a door actuator on a Lexus and a door actuator only goes up and down, so it only needs 3 wires. One's ground, one's positive, and then switch positive. You got me there, right? Well, there were 6 leads to this Lexus door actuator, because with today's cars, when the airbag goes off, the computer unlocks all the doors. So when you replace a door actuator, which is the automatic locker, an unlocker, the car has to recognize that part and accept that part into its realm of control, so that first responders, when they get to a car that's in an accident and the airbag has gone off and you're crippled in the car, they don't have to break out a window to get to you. They can open the door, because all doors unlock automatically when the airbag goes off, to allow first responders access to the car. And therein lies the safety reasoning for putting all of the controls of a car online. And they are all online within the architecture of that vehicle. And I'll tell you, the manufacturers don't like it, and they're very cautious about allowing anyone to go into that online. And to that end, we actually use a local ACE unlock. It's a locksmith service, because they have a license to make keys and fobs and do things that we don't have a license for, because they're bonded in that, because they're allowed to go into that security realm of a car that thieves would love to be, if you know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what
yeah.
you're saying.
So anyway,
Okay.
that's what I would do, and then let me know when you get to the other side what they found, and it sounds like you've got a handle on it. So go forward, okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for your call. Let's take a call from Bruce. Bruce, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Oh, good morning. How
Morning.
you doing?
Great. What can I do for you?
I love your show. I just want to say that.
Oh, thank you.
I've got a Kia Sorento, and it's my girlfriend's best friend's daughter's car. And the exhaust manifolds are getting red hot, and
Wow.
it seems like something's holding back the power of the car. And I'm just curious if they are probably related or not. And I've tried a few things. I know that in the old days when your headers got hot and stuff, it was usually a lean mixture of some sort or timing related. But with this computer, I'm having no misfire, and it just, I think they're related.
Well, certainly what I would do, the easiest thing for you to do, I mean, are you working on this car yourself or
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the easiest thing to do is disconnect the exhaust manifold, not from the head, of course, because that's not easy, but from the exhaust pipe, because if you had a catalytic converter that was restricted, you can't get out. You couldn't, it won't breathe correctly. It won't, the air-fuel ratio will be affected. The performance will certainly be affected. I mean, you can put a potato up a tailpipe and it won't run. The car won't run. If you stop up the tailpipe, it won't run. So you don't have a stopped up tailpipe, because if you did, the engine would not run. But if you have a partially restricted muffler or catalytic converter that's been damaged and melted in interior, then yeah, it could cause sure enough cause that. And what I really think, I really think that cam's out of time.
Okay.
That's what I really think. I mean,
I have
I
have removed the upstream oxygen sensors and took it for a ride last night.
Yeah.
And it didn't run any better. You still feel it holding back, and it was louder, of course, because they were out. But I could still feel it wasn't taking off.
But that's like that's like having a dam and you got a hole the size of your thumb. I mean, you take the O2 sensor out, it's only an 18 millimeter or 15 millimeter thread, so that doesn't affect it. But that doesn't give it enough breathing room. But I don't think that's your problem anyway. I was making that adding to the possibilities. What I really think is, because you have low power and obviously an air-fuel ratio or a timing issue, I think the first thing you would do, well, a very basic thing, you would run a compression test on the engine, and you're gonna find, and that's the most basic, down to earth. I don't need electronics. What an engine has: compression, fuel, air, and ignition, and it should run. Now, how well it runs depends on how all of that is synchronized or in time. And I'll bet you're going to find an exhaust camshaft that's out of time in that vehicle.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in compression myself.
So are all internal combustion engines. So Bruce, do you know how to check cam timing?
At the timing belt, or
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've put in hundreds of timing belts. I'm pretty good at them.
Well,
it's had a timing belt probably about 3 years ago. But the thing I see, it starts so beautifully, and there's no misfire or any of that. But that's probably going to be the next thing. But or the catalytic converters.
I just don't think it's cat converter. I really don't, because if the cat were stopped up, I mean, I mentioned that early on. If the cat were stopped up, it would cause the engine to have low power, but I don't think the engine would have enough oomph, being an 05 Sorento, to force enough heat into the exhaust manifold. I think that's a timing and a fuel delivery issue, and now I've even convinced myself. First thing you got to check, you can check compression ratio, but I can tell you something. You need to check timing and a timing belt. And let me share this with you.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a timing belt engine, but it probably is. But let's say this. Here, one thing you have to know, because you've done so many of these, you think you know it.
Yes.
Top dead center on timing belt may not be, or may be shown on the pulley or not, because some cars like Subaru, if you set the timing belt, both timing belts, as the left and the right, according to the harmonic balancer, you're not correct. There are two different marks, and you have to pull the balancer off to see the mark. So just make sure that you read a manual and get the proper instructions from a manual, a service manual for that particular engine. You got it?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right. Let me know what works, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
You're
Bob.
welcome very much. Yeah, that's very interesting. We just don't know what we don't know until we get to the other side of a repair. And you said, gosh, I thought so. I thought I checked that a dozen times, and it was right. It was right. Well, it was right to the best of your knowledge, and therein lies where experience comes in. I mean, if you go to a heart surgeon, do you want one this is his first heart job, or you want one that's had some experience? Well, we don't need to talk about that because we know the answer to that. Same thing's true for your car, by the way. Let's go to John. John, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, good morning, Bobby. How are you today?
Terrific. You?
Good. Great here in Daytona Beach.
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know. I don't have to ask the weather. The weather's beautiful here. I'm sure Daytona Beach is the same on the East Coast, right?
85 and sunny right now.
Well, that's my second home, and one of these days, if I should ever retire, or I guess when I do retire, they could just put me in the box, because that's probably when I'm going to retire, and they ship me to Daytona and Ormond Beach. What can I do for you today?
I have hopefully it's a simple question. I just purchased a 2018 GMC 3/4 ton Duramax.
Okay.
I'm preparing to have a topper put on it, as I had my 2016, the same thing. My question is, do you know whether or not up underneath that vehicle there is a wiring connection for the third brake light as well as maybe a hot or a dome light?
The third brake light is going to be, isn't that on the roof of the car?
Yeah, I'm talking about the topper. When the topper is installed.
I know. But the original third brake light is on the roof of the car, right?
Correct.
Well, there's the wire there, and so you could take off from the power of that wire to feed. The challenge with that is your topper's not going to be connected to the cab. It's going to be near it, but not connected, right?
Correct.
Well, let's see. There is. Let me think back to another GMC. We just had a lot of experience with an earlier year, 96 it was, GMC, that had a brake light issue, and it had some burn wire. I won't even begin to go there, except to tell you that this vehicle had a white wire that got power when the brakes were applied, and that white wire fed the cruise control. It fed the rear brake lights. It fed through the turn signal. It fed the third brake light, and it fed an auxiliary. So to answer your question, John, yes, there would be, now I don't know if it's white or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was, there should be a white wire in the back of that vehicle where the trailer lights are that could be used to power a third brake light for the topper, the camper that you're going to put on.
Right.
And I really, before you start, for sure, before you start exploring on your own, what I would do is I would talk to the topper people, because, are you going to put this on yourself?
No, I'm going to have it put on. I'm just trying to avoid having a bunch of spaghetti wiring up underneath the truck.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
DMC, I was doing some research this morning
right.
on the internet, and I thought that I was reading that up underneath the spare tire there are a series of connectors under there.
Yes, sir. They're
supposedly one of them is supposed to have some sort of a blue wire that's dedicated as a rear brake light. And I'm not sure of that, know. And then I was also wondering if there was a hot back there to power a topper dome light as well.
Let's see, a power wire. I doubt there's a power wire for a dome light, because that would be a direct battery wire. So right. I doubt that, but that's easy enough to run to the battery, making sure that it's fused at the terminal where it's connected to the battery. You understand why?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. At where it gets its power, a fuse like 2 inches from the battery and
right.
you know, or wherever you put it. But that's the most convenient. You can run that wire and
Right.
and run it. Anyway, so without going there, yes, I do believe that there is an auxiliary, and that's what you need to find out. You know what? I think it might be easier to go to the dealer.
Yeah,
and,
maybe so.
Yeah, and ask where is the auxiliary brake light wire in the back of this vehicle, because and it wouldn't surprise me if it were a white one because of the experience that we just had
Right.
on this one. So I would definitely do that, and that way you will not be invasive. You'll have what you need, and you can run it at in the most proper way to that
Right.
to that camper,
Right.
realizing that when you go through any bulkhead, you must put a rubber grommet, and when you make any connection, you must use heat shrink and solder connections. I mean, that's the proper way to do it, you know, because you got a new vehicle, and you don't want to instill problems that 6 months from now you're going down the road and poop, you lose your brake lights because it's shorted out. That would be the wrong thing to do. Hey, I that's my opinion, and that's what I would say to do. Got it?
Got it. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Folks,
have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Jim, I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to get to you this hour. That's all the time we have for this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Just too much information, but the good news, another hour coming up. I'm Bobby Likis. Stay tuned, Likis. You'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Coolant leaks can be expensive, with repairs costing a few $1,000s or more. And these problems often hit vehicles late in life when they may be only worth a few $1,000s. There is an alternative. K-Seal is a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it. HEST, or high-energy solvent technology, is what differentiates Berryman products from other additives, providing a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. But don't take our word for it. Here's a testimonial from Olivia. Her 99 Infiniti Q45 with 170,000 miles was starting to hesitate and lag. After doing her research, Olivia decided on Berryman's B12 Chem Tool. According to her, the product works great and it's less expensive. Great value. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. You can also call our 888 Car Clinic number. It's a little easier for you to remember, 888-227-2546. Hannah is in the house, and she will take your call and put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part this morning by the Car Care Council, reminding you that October is Fall Car Care Month. You can visit carcare.org to learn how you can keep your vehicle safe, dependable, and on the road versus on the side of the road. Get it? On the road, which is better. There's just nothing as frustrating as having that maybe the overheated engine or a radiator hose or a battery light or some issue with your automobile that gives you such concern. I mean, a flat tire, yeah, that can be bad too, but at least that's pull off the road, find a safe place, put a spare on, and go about your merry way, hopefully if you've got a spare. But to have a car that's broken down means that you're not going to fix it on the side of the road, and today's cars are so sophisticated, don't put yourself in that position. Have your car checked out annually by your local service shop, whether it's an independent, a chain store, or the dealership. An annual inspection, just like your body, your car needs one as well. I'll take your calls when I come back. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you're going to love us. We recently worked on an 03 Buick Park Avenue with a 3.8 engine, and the vehicle had been a workhorse, 190,000 miles and more. That said, fuel economy had slipped from 24 mpg to 19. On cold startup, the check engine light flashed, in addition to rough idling. Engine fuel trim pointed toward carbon issues. A quick scan revealed random misfire code P0300. The codes were cleared, and after a visual inspection of the ignition system and fuel filter change, we added a can of Berryman B12 Chem Tool to a fresh tank of fuel. After a 400-mile round trip and a second can of Berryman B12 Chem Tool, fuel economy was back to 24 miles per gallon and idle quality was restored. Many times, complex running issues are traced to carbon issues on today's vehicles. Fuel system maintenance starts with simple tank additives as the first step in carbon cleaning your engine. The next time your vehicle is sluggish or experiencing fuel economy that's not up to par, try Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Learn more at berrymanproducts.com. That's berrymanproducts.com. Car repairs get expensive, and most of us don't have spare money for them. That's where brands like K-Seal really can be a lifesaver. A leaking freeze plug is definitely cause for concern. The plugs seal the cooling system and are a common cause of leaks on aging engines. And while the plugs themselves are not terribly expensive, replacement can be a tedious job. It's because most freeze plugs are difficult to gain access to. Not to mention the fact that you have to drain and refill the entire cooling system. All of this ultimately makes for an expensive repair. So what can you do if your vehicle is only worth a few $1,000s? That's where K-Seal comes in. Pour K-Seal into the cooling system, and it will work to seal the system as you drive. Never clogs up. It also stays in the system and can help prevent future leaks as well. We've used K-Seal on many cars in our shop and have had great results. Find K-Seal at automotive retailers nationwide and get more information at kseal.com. That's kseal.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started right away. We'll go to the phones are starting to fill up. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Go to Mississippi and talk with Jim. Jim, welcome back. Always love to have you in the house. How you doing, my friend?
Bobby, I'm like the World Fair. I just get bigger and better every year. Hey, that commercial you had about that K-Seal,
yeah,
I'll tell your listeners, an ounce of prevention is worth 10 pounds of cure. You can't do enough to help your automobile.
Well, you're preaching to the choir there, and I will tell you, we created, to that end, Jim, we created and we protected this called a service plan of our own. And this was after, 35 years in the business. I and my team, mostly from my direction because of sleepless nights, how can we reduce the number of breakdowns? And quite candidly, if I could find a cure for cancer, if our doctor could find a cure for cancer, that would be my goal in life. I mean, and it would be, okay? So that was the process that I used when I came up with pre-repair, which is the prevention of repair. It's a program designed to maintain healthy components, the major components of a car, bumper to bumper. And we not only created that and codified that program, we trademarked that program. And under that program comes Booster Shot, which is our supercharged oil change. And I will tell you, my car at 35,000 miles had every component serviced under the pre-repair, and lo and behold, at 49,000 the water pump started making noise, and because the pre-repair comes with a protection plan, the protection plan, which is not my company, but it's a larger company, an international company, and we buy the equipment and the chemicals from that company, the protection plan supplied with it paid my shop $749 to replace the water pump and the related services for that particular bad event on my 49,000 mile automobile, which I was never satisfied and happy that the water pump needed to be replaced. And to that end, there was a change in the water pump design, and I had to do it again later on at my nickel. But anyway, so you're talking to the choir here, and that's a program that we created, and that's enough said about it, except that we take cars that are brand new at 5,000 miles and do our booster shot, perform our booster shot, so that way we can use conventional motor oil, add a full synthetic additive to the motor oil, and it becomes a blended synthetic, and it's less expensive than synthetic and protects equally as well. Anyway, back to you and your question. Thanks for your comment.
Nissan exterior, Bobby. I love its body style. I love this vehicle. It's got two-wheel drive, 3.3 automatic. It's got 16-inch tires on it.
Okay.
When I crank it up and start out my driveway, if I start down a hill, the transmission don't slip, but it's like the engine is outrunning the truck.
The car. Yeah. Got you.
But you let off of it and come back in it, it's fine. Or you can take off hard, it don't slip. Now, that's the first issue. When you get up about 45, 50 mile an hour, you can let off that gas a little bit, and you can watch your RPM drop back from about 2,100, 2,200, about 2,000.
Is that a VVT transmission?
I don't know. All I know is automatic. Bobby, I'm not no mechanic. I told you this before. I'm a shade tree mechanic.
Well, here's my concern. The variable control transmission, variable ratio transmission, and I don't know what year Nissan had those, but that is my least. Let me put this the right way. I loved the old Nissan Altima, the Altima. They're great cars, okay? But when Nissan came out with that variable transmission, and I loved the transmission 40 years ago, I even called Don Garland and said, hey, it was called a MAN at the time, M-A-N, from the UK, and it has no gears in it. It has a steel belt that drives it and pulleys that expand and contract so that one pulley ratio. Okay, that transmission, that transmission has given nothing but problems, and manufacturers have redesigned them. And so another 5 years from now, I'll know if the 2018 Nissan with its variable transmission is any better than the 2002 or 5 or 4, whatever that year was. So my concern for you is, Jim, that you've got a transmission issue. It's something you can't fix, nor should you, and you can't go out and buy a used one because you already have a used one. So if that transmission does continue to do what it's doing, you're going to have to replace the transmission, and in order to do that, you either have to get a reman, which could be one of the major companies. Jasper's one of them. And so there are other parts houses that sell reman transmissions, but that's the only way, because the symptom you're giving me, and that's the reason I don't like those transmissions, because there's a lot of whoop and there's no go. There's a lot of roar, but there's no go behind it until you back off the throttle. Then it sort of seems like it you can feel it from the seat of your pants. I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's because the first one I ever drove really was a Cavalier that I was given as a road test. And I was hesitant to write the road test because I really did not enjoy driving that car because the transmission never seemed to hook up. And I think that's what you're experiencing.
Well, the body itself's got 265,000 on it. Motor's got about 22,000 on it.
Right.
I thought about having its transmission drained, completely drained, new filter and everything put in it, and see if that might make any help. You might help it some. And what kind of additive could I put to it? Like I said,
there's a fluid for that transmission that's fluid specific with no additive, and any service shop would have that. But and I'm always for, yes, by all means, change the fluid, Jim, because you have nothing to lose there. Make sure you use the fluid that is specific to that transmission, and the industry will tell you that, and you can look up the specs. But
we'll do that now. The other issue real quick is my brakes. I can reach down and touch that brake pedal. It'll go about halfway to the floor. And then you let off, pump it, hit it again, it'll stop you on a dime. Now, I bled my brakes, my right back, left back, right front, left front. I even hunted a bleeder on my master cylinder. I can't find one there. It's good for 2 or 3 days, and then it'll go back doing the same thing. Could that be the master cylinder or the vacuum booster?
Well, the vacuum boosters, no, it's not the vacuum booster. The vacuum booster either works or it doesn't. The master cylinder, if you bleed the brakes and you get a better brake pedal, or if you can pump the brakes up and increase the brake pedal, there's air in the system. If you bleed and get the air out and correct it, and in 3 days or a week or so, that same thing comes back. The only way air can get in the system
Likis.
Is a seal that would be, my first guess, master cylinder. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome.
Listen, I try to listen to you all the time, but I can't get you till late in the afternoon. So y'all have a great day, and God bless, okay?
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you. What a nice guy. I never met him, but I feel like I know him. I guess just that maybe that's a Mississippi Southern gentleman. I don't know, or which I'm a Floridian, but I'm a Southern gentleman is what I've been called, among other things. Okay, who's next? Elmer. Elmer, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Yeah, Bobby. My 1998 town car, the battery light never comes on. Engine off, key on.
Well, the simplest answer to that is to remove the cluster and put a bulb in that socket.
Well, if I pull the field plug off of the alternator and ground the light wire, the light comes on. So I know the fuse and the bulb is good.
Well, then that tells me, all right, if that's here, okay, that's good. Great, you're good. That means that the bulb circuit that is normally grounded through the charging system is okay. Ergo, when you turn the key on, it gets a hot from the key. Let's see, it's electrical. The electricals are always tough because what you think is causing a problem is usually not. But the bottom line is, it's if you turn the key on, in all cars, as you know, folks, and Elmer knows this, if you turn the key on, all the whole dash lights up, and it tests, and then it goes to a test. So if yours is not doing that, then you have to have a wiring diagram. Do you have a wiring diagram?
sure do. I've been in the business for 33 years. I'm 92 years old now and retired.
Well, cool. Well, your next step is going to be to pull the cluster and make sure that the 32-pin and the printed circuit board in the cluster is healthy, and you should be able to do that without any real, I mean, that's not really hard to get out of that car.
Oh, Bobby, if I ground the light wire at the alternator and the light comes on, don't that tell us the circuit is good?
It tells you that circuit is good, but when the key is off, when the key is in the run position, then there's another ground. The way it gets another. In other words, you're testing half of the circuitry. Just because that works doesn't mean the other half is working, and the other half is a static and a running. Hold on, I'll be back. This Engine Care Spotlight is brought to you by Walker Products, a leading manufacturer of quality fuel system components and engine sensors. Today's vehicles are being pushed to new heights with increased fuel economy and fewer tailpipe emissions, which has created the need for a smarter and more sophisticated exhaust after-treatment system, featuring an array of sensors designed to help monitor and control the different aspects of vehicle operation and health. The EGT, or exhaust gas temperature sensor, plays a major role in multiple processes, and it's critical that the EGT is performing within their limits. But not all EGT sensors are created equal. Housing styles and materials vary, in addition to resistance types and temperature ratings. It's imperative that a consumer replace their EGT sensor with a correct OEM factory-style sensor. Walker Products has been supplying the automotive aftermarket since 1946 and manufactures all of its EGTs using only OEM-based sensors. Need a new sensor? Walker Products offers OE quality at aftermarket prices. Drive to walkerproducts.com. Berryman Products is celebrating their 100th anniversary, providing innovative products to the automotive aftermarket, like Berryman Chem-Dip carburetor parts cleaner that helps remove gum, varnish, fuel residue, and other harmful deposits from carburetor parts and throttle bodies without heat, aeration, or agitation. Berryman Chem-Dip carburetor parts cleaner is safe to use with most plastic and metal carburetor and throttle body parts, including steel and aluminum alloys. Learn more at berrymanproducts.com.
What 100-year-old automotive company makes dozens of products to extend your vehicle's life and improve its performance?
Let me see.
Which company uses high-energy solvent technology, or HEST?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
What company introduced B12 Chem Tool over 40 years ago? Still the best fuel system cleaner on the market?
Oh, don't tell me it's
Berryman Automotive Products. Correct. Berryman Automotive Products has lubricants, cleaners, solvents, hundreds of solutions, and every product all American-made since 1918. You'll find Berryman Automotive Products at AutoZone, Pep Boys, and Walmart. Now, why would you buy anything else?
You sure ask a lot of questions.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance. When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking with Elmer, and Elmer, I thought about your dash light, your battery light that doesn't come on when you turn the key on. So let's you and I get on the same page. When you turn the key on, the key will send power to the bulb and the battery light, and then and you've proven that the bulb is good because you can go to the alternator and ground the white wire at the alternator and the bulb will come on. That's correct?
Yeah, and my question was, what grounds that when you hook it to the alternator? Is there something in the alternator that grounds that wire to turn the light on?
Well, obviously there is, because if we take things on the simplistic side and take a body control module out, which I'm sure in this case is not a part of the culprit, because then all bets are off, because they're computerized controls that use resistance readings and voltage readings and what have you. But in this case, it sounds to me as though maybe a stator in the alternator or a diode in the alternator is not functioning and is not providing the ground that the light needs. Because think about this, let's simplify it. If you've got a bulb, you've got a power wire and a ground wire. We know the power wire is okay because you turn the key on and you ground it, it works. Therefore, what we are missing is a ground. So it stands to reason that the alternator is providing, normal cases, the alternator is providing the ground, because when you crank the engine and the alternator produces current, that same wire that was grounding now becomes positively hot, and you can hook positive to one side of a light and positive to the other side, and no current flow, because there's no current flow because there's no positive to negative. So it sounds to me as though the alternator is a culprit.
All right, I understand that you put juice on both sides of the light, it goes out. But let me tell you another problem. I thought it was the voltage regulator, so I put a new brush set and voltage regulator in. That didn't help. So I went and bought a new alternator. That didn't do any good. And the parts house give me another new alternator, and that doesn't do it. So it's got me baffled.
Well, and the reason it has is because the simplicity of two positives will not make a light, and the way that you're thinking and the way that you and I just had a conversation, you would think that. Therefore, when the car is turned on, it doesn't use that white wire to make that light. You're just going around the back door and making the light come on. So if you have a wiring diagram, you should be able to see where the power comes and go to the light bulb and have power. And you should be able to go turn the key on and go to the wire that feeds the printed circuit board and see if there's power to it, and then see if there's a ground. Elmer, that's what I advise you to do. And like last week, I got into a 20-minute conversation with someone. You can't fix a car over the air. I wish I could, but you've got to go back and start checking a pinout from the wiring diagram as to where the wire, and let me ask one question. Does that white wire on the wiring diagram go directly from the alternator to that bulb, or do you know? How did you?
There's a 980 ohm resistor in that line somewhere.
Did you check the ohms in that wire?
Not as yet.
Okay, that's your next step then. Hey, thanks for your call. I'll look forward to hearing from you next week. We'll take another call from Pennsylvania. Ron, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you, and thanks for holding.
No problem. Appreciate it. Listen, I got a 1980 Jeep CJ5. I did a 2-year frame-off restoration.
Cool.
Got an Iron Duke engine on it. Been running well, but in the last month I've been encountering a lot of problems with ignition. Actually, it was idling rough, and then from there it started stalling, so I started replacing parts. I replaced the distributor cap because it was cracked, replaced the wires because they were corroded,
right?
Replaced the distributor rotor, replaced the ignition module, replaced the radio capacitor, and replaced the coil. And now I don't have spark at all.
Well, we know that when you've got you don't have a standard points and condenser. You've got a electronic ignition. So
I got an HEI ignition.
It's an HEI? An HEI? A simple HEI?
HEI. Mm-hmm.
Well, you put 12 volts on the HEI and ground it and hold it in your hand, it's going to make spark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's too simple. Okay. All right. So here, wait.
I got the HEI, and I replaced it I ran out of ideas yesterday. I went out and bought a new HEI coil. even though I tested the old one for ohms and everything, it looked good.
Well, what about the pole piece?
I can even throw electrical wire to it.
Ron,
the power is coming in.
Ron, what about the pole piece?
What about the pole piece? You talking about the capacitor coil?
No,
pickup coil?
no, I'm talking about the reluctor in the distributor.
The reluctor in the distributor. I'm not sure which part that is. I have to look that up.
It's called a pole piece. Here's the simplest thing. You can go, and we did this recently because ironically, we had a Jeep that this young man bought, bad decision, and it didn't run. And the reason it didn't run is because the flywheel had 5 teeth stripped out of it. So the first thing we did was we pulled the transmission, put a new flywheel, and put a new starter on it. Johnny Bars had turned the starter, and it went vroom, and fired, and scared us. We thought it was going to tear up our brand new flywheel. So that's why whoever traded it because of course when we found out that when it had fire, but the bottom line, when we disconnected the ignition, it would spin over and the starter would mesh and work well. When we hooked up the ignition, it wouldn't turn over about a half a turn and it would backfire, so obviously it was out of time. So we retarded the timing just as a test, some 40 degrees, and it still did the same thing. I said, pull the distributor, put a new distributor in it. So it was an HEI. When I found out it was HEI, I said, oh, that's no big deal because the HEI is all encompassing one unit. So we put a distributor in this vehicle, and we took the other one apart. Not only were the advance weights rusted and seized, but whoever had put the rotor on it didn't get the square hole in the square and the round hole in the round peg, and when they tightened it, the fly weights were lapping over like you put your hands on your chest versus being down in their little happy groove, and the rotor was not secure, but it had seized the weights as well. I mean, it was idiotic is what it was, and here was a young man that bought this vehicle, but what was really strange is the person that sold it to him that had obviously replaced the rotor and cap. So for you, here's what you should know. All you have to do is I would pull the distributor out of that vehicle. And all you have to do is ground the distributor housing and run 12 volts from a battery, the same battery, separate from the car, and spin that distributor with the gear with your hand, and it will provide spark. So you can bench test. That's the easiest. I mean, the cam does turn over, doesn't it? The gear's not stripped in the distributor, is it?
No, the cam's fine. The gears are turning. In the distributor, the weights are turning.
Okay, pull it out and put a reluctor in it, and you can buy parts or you can just buy a distributor. I know that we bought ours from O'Reilly Auto Parts right up the street, and they didn't have one in stock, but they got one in 2 hours. So I know those parts are still available because that's a common issue, that's a common problem. But
it's an iron tooth. There's plenty of those out there.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway. Here's your go-to. Pull that distributor away from the vehicle. Get a battery on your workbench, or use a battery in the vehicle, and hold it a comfortable position. Run a ground wire from the battery to the case of the distributor. Run a 12 volts from the same battery to the hot lead of the distributor, and spin the gear with your hand. And if you don't spark, it's a bad pole piece, or it's a bad distributor, or something. It is the distributor. That's the easy fix.
Well, I can take back all those parts and just and spend a little more money and get a whole distributor.
That's what I would do.
Make my life easier.
Hey, you know what that's called? It's called hindsight, or Bobby Likis car clinic. Hey, thanks for calling. Good luck. Let me know next week if they'll take the parts back.
Oh no, don't take the parts back. I appreciate your advice, Bob.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ron. Good luck. Let's go to New York from Pennsylvania and talk to Carol. Carol, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Oh, I'm so glad that I got you before 12 o'clock, and we don't have much time.
Okay.
But I'm calling about my Subaru that I picked up on June 25th. I had the Honda CR-V with the clutch that had to be replaced. It was a faulty clutch.
Right.
I don't know if you remember.
I remember, and this was you like standard transmission cars.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh yeah, I got your number.
God bless you, and don't forget it. Because one of these days, now that I have a new car, I'm going to make it down to Pensacola. Okay, so this is I have good news and I have sad news. S-A-D, not B-A-D.
I know.
Okay, the good news is that I'm getting over 30 miles per gallon average, and I discovered this little window. I believe when I got the new car, you asked me about different displays. Well, I discovered the one that shows in real time your MPG in real time.
Right.
So I'm even in the city, I'm getting like 30 sometimes.
Wow.
So I'm very happy about that.
Okay.
But here's the thing. I have driven on the highway. We have a Route 81 that's up in the Syracuse, north and south of we're south of Syracuse, and the car, 6 gears. The car was dying. It was a dog. I couldn't believe it. This one particular road is like a roller coaster, and I had 2 other ladies in the car. One was weighty, one was not, and I was we're about 2 of us were about the same, but the other one was kind of weighty. And are you laughing?
Yeah, I think that's the nicest thing you could ever say about somebody that's overweight. They're weighty.
A weight with a Y on the end. And so anyway, I was having to downshift to 5th gear and 4th gear. Because of this one, I'm just going to say the route number. They're 81 near Syracuse.
Okay.
You take this Lafayette exit, and you get on this Route 20 West. I know there's a lot of local people here that listen because people have told me that they've heard me on the radio, some of my friends.
Well, wait then, Carol. To that end, for them to hear you next time, we have a hard break coming up. So you stay right there. Folks, I'm going to come back, and then we're going to go to Jeff, but we're going to stay with Carol. Don't go away. Talking tunes? No, not the ones on your radio, the ones that allow you to reprogram your vehicle's factory computer, giving you more power, more torque, and a better overall driving experience. We recently sat down with Jim McGinn, Vice President of Marketing for Power Tech. Jim touched on the role a tuner plays when adding an intake or exhaust system.
Anytime you add an intake or an exhaust system, it's important to make sure that you have a tune equipped to help those hard parts work well together on your vehicle. The magic and beauty of the Diablo Sport tuners and the Reaper Stage 1 kits are that you get an air-fuel mixture that is already designed and engineered for the particular setup that you may be running to electronically compensate for the intake and the exhaust on your vehicles. Diablo Sport Jammer intake tunes make tuning easy anytime you add an intake or an exhaust.
Whether it's the Predator, the Intune i3, or the Trinity 2, you can find the perfect tune at DiabloSport.com. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking with Carol in New York. So, Miss Carol, you're out on 20 there, and it's at the hills, and you got a load in the car, and you're having a downshift. And
the third and to fourth, Well,
right.
Yes, the fourth. But here's the thing.
Okay.
This particular road, I mean, it's got really long hills and really long declines. So I was trying to get a head start, and I was just. It was the first time that I had that many people in the car, other than myself,
right.
And it really surprised me. And that's the sad news, because I couldn't believe it, because with my 19-year-old Honda CR-V with 5 gears, never had a problem. I never had a downshift into fourth on any highway. It would be in fifth gear, and it would just sail along no matter how many hills I had. But anyway, here's the really sad, embarrassing part. When I was by myself in the car, I had to go back on that road a second day because I was at a playhouse and I lost my jacket, and they found it, and I drove up myself the following day. So I had to travel that same roller coaster thing. And coming back, I was getting back on 81 from the Lafayette, and it's like a decline and then quite a bit incline. I wound up, are you ready for this, having to get in the truck lane, because I was in third gear, and I was accelerating at 100% because I said I discovered that window, the little display thing that from left to right,
right.
Overall mileage, MPG in real time, and then percentage of acceleration.
Right.
And I was up to 100. I had the thing floored, and I'm in the truck lane. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
Well,
and I just got off the phone 20 minutes ago with the dealer because I thought I've got to talk to somebody over there. And I talked to the salesman. He knew he's never heard any complaints. I says, yeah, well, how many people drive manual transmission that you've sold a car to? Because I guess the Subarus also have, the automatics have that CVT, the continuous
variable
velocity
ratio.
transmission.
Right.
And so and he wasn't offering to ask anybody. I says, well, please go, pick somebody's brain and see if anybody knows anything about it.
Let me share this with you. There's something you can do in the meantime. You can go online to Subaru's site, when you're going to build a car, and find your particular vehicle. And this is what's important.
My VIN number, particular vehicle?
No, I'm sorry. Your particular engine size.
Okay.
Thanks for pinpointing that. And what you would need to know is the horsepower and the torque.
2,500 cc's, 2.5 liter.
But you need to know the horsepower and the torque rating for that engine.
Aha.
And if you've got the Monroney sticker, the original sales that was in the window.
It's in my glove compartment.
Okay, I thought you might. You will see the horsepower and torque rating and MPG, all that pertinent information that is mandated by the government that we, anyway. So what you want to look at is the torque of that engine, and then you want to compare that to the torque of the Honda. And I'll share this with you, and then I have to go. But last week, after last week's broadcast, I drove from Florida to Georgia, to Atlanta. And in Atlanta, I joined friends, and we took their car to the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Oh, I've been through there. With my Honda, not with my Honda, but with my Toyota Tercel,
yes,
a 4-speed, never had a problem.
Well, this gentleman that was the wife of my wife, was the husband of my wife's friend who went to school with. That's how this all came about. So I had the displeasure of riding from Atlanta, Georgia to the Blue Ridge Mountains in a Subaru SUV that was as gutless of an automobile. Now, having said that, there were three adults and one weighty adult, him. But this car had a lot of miles, had no maintenance, nor had it ever had a bath, I don't think, and it had an axle bearing that I 2 blocks after we left, I said, I'm only going to say this one time because I don't want to make this trip, I don't want to call out everything, but you do have a left rear axle bearing that needs to be replaced.
Is it making a noise?
I mean, this is like 2.5 hours, drove me crazy. I was sitting on it. So the bottom line did, and you don't want to ask me out for dinner in your car because I'm going to say, oh, did you know you've got this problem? It's my lot in life. But Carol, in closing, let me say this. He floorboarded that car every chance he got, and we were going over the mountains there in Blue Ridge and going over to the lodge where we were staying and what have you. And it was the worst experience in my life. Number one, I don't like to ride with people because I'm a control freak. I openly admit that.
I'm the same way with driving.
Number two, I don't like to ride in a car that's had no maintenance, no baths, interior-wise or exterior-wise, and has been ridden hard until something breaks. And I assured them when we said goodbye and got back in my car to come back.
What year was it? What year was the vehicle?
I don't know. It's probably 8-10 years old. It was a small SUV Subaru.
Probably the Forester, perhaps.
Yeah, it was a Forester. Yeah, it was. Okay, now that I remember on the deck lid, it was a Forester. It had no power, and it was an automatic transmission. And he would go. He would kick it down into overdrive or into passing gear, going over these little mountains there around the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I gotta say. The first thing I thought of, other than all that I just told you, is this car needs a turbocharger. So a 4-cylinder engine, and I'll say this, it's too late now. Anybody that buys a 4-cylinder engine, you should buy a turbocharger because a turbocharger is like 40% increase in horsepower and a 17-pound addition in weight. I'm telling you, it's the biggest bang for the buck. And my dear, there's nothing, you can check the numbers and so that you can figure out what next you're going to do on this vehicle. But check your torque rating and then compare that to the torque of a turbo, which is not, apples and apples. But the bottom line is, I think you bought what you bought, and my concern is that it is what it is. I don't think anything's wrong with the vehicle. I think it is what it is.
I don't believe so either. But your earlier phone call, I think said something about something was baffling. You used the word baffling, and that reminded me. I said, I've got to call you because I think because I had a baffle problem in a muffler many years ago when I had a Ford van, and the guy who installed it said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with the muffler." I said, "Yes, there is."
Yes, yeah. I've been there, done. I know exactly what you're talking about. Here's the bottom line.
And there was something wrong with the muffler. They had to replace it.
Well, the first thing you're going to do is go to the dealer and road test this car with someone, put a technician in this car and take him out on the road. And not that you've got to go out to 20 or 80 or whatever, but you can find a nearby hill or so and show them what you don't like about this vehicle, and then ask them to test it for the proper performance, and then let me know what they say, and I'll help you.
God bless you. Okay.
Okay.
I'll let you get to the next caller.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you
for taking my call.
You're welcome. And that's underpowered. 4-cylinder just doesn't have it. Have to have the turbo. Let's go to Jeff. Jeff in New York. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Cleaning. Thanks for holding.
Hey, Bobby, what a fun show. I really love listening in.
She is such a character, and she loves standard. She buys only standard transmissions, and the problem with standard transmissions, of course, today's cars, like paddle shifts and what have you, they're going to discontinue standard transmissions because you can have a faster drag race car, not that we're drag racing, with a paddle shift automatic than you can with a standard transmission, because all that internal dual clutches is all done mechanically, electromechanically, and so you can't begin to physically match the push the clutch, shift the lever, let the clutch out, and nail the gas pedal. You can't do that like a paddle shift can. Anyway, what can I do for you?
Oh, just real quick. Well, she lives up here, not too far from me, she'd be thrilled to come down here and drive my little 94 minivan. It's got that little 5-speed. Bobby, it turned over 250,000 the other day.
Darn. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I love this little thing. It is the engine runs great, man. I could hop in and drive down to see you today. It's not a problem.
Wow.
It's a little bit noisy. It's always had a kind of a clack, 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 clack.
Yeah.
And I even went through and rebuilt the motor and everything on it, but it still does that. I don't know. Maybe it's a water pump. I don't know, but never have a problem with it. It runs great. You were talking about distributors earlier, and I was thinking back on a pickup truck I had, and my wife was out here with me one day, and I said, "Hey, they're gonna pull this distributor off and just clean everything up inside there." To pull it off, and there was little chips of metal and metal dust everywhere.
Yeah.
Pulled the rotor off. The little spring tab on top of the rotor.
Sure.
It was gone. And I had been driving it. I'd probably just driven it back from Tennessee. I use that truck to run back and forth.
Right.
Runs flawless. I pulled it out. Oh, how can it even be running? There's nothing in there. It's just a plastic rotor. I don't know.
Well, it's a distributor.
It was jumping.
Well, it's a distributor, but not a ignition distributor. It's a distributor of ignition voltage, inasmuch as it has a magnetic crankshaft sensor that and an igniter elsewhere that fires the coil, and the coil sends the voltage to the distributor cap, and that distributor turns, and whenever the coil fires, it connects to the right cylinder. So it literally is just a pointer, but it has no guts on the inside. That's a typical. Ford went through that, and then they realized, well, gosh, that what's the better solution? And of course, coil over plugs, and then they didn't have too much success for that. I'm afraid, but anyway, that's what
I was just surprised that I didn't know that they would run without that little.
That voltage, voltage, 100,000 volts, man, it'll jump. It doesn't like it, but it'll jump even when pieces missing. Of course, it burns and makes tracers and causes misfires and what have you. Hey, I got to go, Jeff. Thanks so much for your
Bobby.
call. Yeah, appreciate you. Folks, I want to share with you an information about water damage because of the recent floods and in the east part of our country. Water damage from a flood can unknowingly cause a lot of problems that are costly down the road to fix. And our partner at the Car Care Council, Rich White's the executive director there, and I want to quote, "In addition, flood-damaged vehicles can be unhealthy to occupy because of mold and bacteria growing within the carpet and the ventilation system. The Car Care Council, in conjunction with the Car Care Professionals Network, recommend taking the following steps to determine if a vehicle has been flood damaged." And I want to just share some of this because this is important. Take the sniff test. Well, that's easy enough. Close all the windows and doors, let it sit for 5 minutes, and open the door and see what you smell. If there's microbial growth, you'll get a whiff of it. Try the touch test. Use a paper towel, press against the low spots in the carpet, and if you draw moisture, you know you got water underneath the mats there. Investigate the interior. Look for corrosion in and around areas that were unpainted. Under the seats is specifically, and I've made this mentioned many times on Car Clinic. Look under the seats at the hardware, and if you see new bolts and washers holding an old seat with rusty springs, you'll know that that's not a match, and you know that car may have been underwater, at least up to that part of it. And of course, look for mud and debris, and inspect the instrument panel. Turn the key on and check the bulb test. Make sure every bulb lights up, and if a system does have an issue, removing the warning bulb can hide it. And in many instances, vehicles that are flooded have malfunctions in both their anti-lock brake system and the airbag system. So you can take a peek but where those bulbs are and look for any corrosion caused by moisture. It should be pristine. All cars, even older cars, when you take the cluster out, should be as it was new, like they're taking the back off of a television, except for a little dust. You shouldn't see anything that's burned or corroded. And the last, from the Car Care Council, take it to a professional. Have an automotive technician inspect that vehicle. and they can raise the car and look underneath and check for debris that may be lodged, up in the shock area of the springs. And finally, ask the technician to examine all of the fluids to determine what degree of water, if any, has entered. Those are all great tips from the Car Care Council. And for more information, go to carcare.org and take a look around at all of the videos and the online scheduling and just a host of things that you can do and you should know so that you can keep your car on the road versus on the side of the road. A special thanks to the Car Care Council. That's all the time that we have for today. I see that we've got a gentleman that's calling in, Robert, with a Subaru Outback 4-cylinder. I'm sure that maybe it's a rebuttal. Robert, I'm going to ask you to call next week because I'll put you first up. And every week from 10 till noon, you can hear Bobby Likis Car Clinic at Watch Bobby Live or on your local radio stations, AM and or FM across the nation. Thanks for tuning in today. It's been I enjoy so much sharing information. Next week, I'm going to share a little bit of information about CarStar. And CarStar was founded on the belief that a network of high-quality collision repair facilities would be of benefit for consumers and welcomed by the insurance industry. And a gentleman named Lyrel Holt, a former shop owner and expert in collision management for 3M, saw the opportunity and created CarStar. A little more about CarStar next week, answers to your car questions, and more car fun right here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
A dead battery can leave you stranded, so get yours tested for free during Superstart Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Need a replacement? Purchase a Superstart Extreme or Superstart Platinum battery and get up to $25 in O'Reilly gift cards after a mail-in rebate. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Motorrad, a longtime OE supplier, is the leader in automotive thermostats and fuel and oil coolant caps. Motorrad's state-of-the-art quality control and functional testing systems ensure high-quality, long-lasting products. Motorrad delivers world-class product development, providing all the parts and accessories needed to do the job right the first time, every time. Motorrad offers the best coverage of thermostats and closure caps in the world for virtually any vehicle and engine on or off the road. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.